Art can captivate us, enchant us, and even haunt us. It can evoke powerful emotions and transport us to other worlds. But what if a piece of art did more than that? What if it crossed the line between observer and observed? That's exactly what happened to me the day I brought home The Silent Watcher, a painting I stumbled upon at an estate sale. At first, it seemed like a beautiful, albeit eerie, work of art, its mysterious figure painted with haunting precision. But then I realized the painting was more than it seemed. It was alive, and no matter where I went, no matter what I did, it followed me. Because The Silent Watcher wasn't just a painting. It was a curse. It began on a quiet Saturday morning. I had decided to spend my day exploring local estate sales, searching for something unique to decorate my new apartment. Most of the sales were predictable: old furniture, dusty books, porcelain figurines, but the final house of the day stood out. The property was massive, surrounded by a wrought iron fence and choked with overgrown ivy. It looked abandoned, though the makeshift estate sale sign in the yard suggested otherwise. Curiosity pulled me through the gates and into the dimly lit interior of the house. There, tucked in a corner of the living room, I found it, the painting. It was an oil portrait, roughly 2 feet tall, and framed in ornate, tarnished gold. The subject was a man shrouded in shadow, standing in a dense, foggy forest. His features were vague, blurred as if the painter hadn't dared to define them, but his eyes were crystal clear. They seemed to pierce through the canvas, locking onto mine the moment I looked at it. Something about it unsettled me, yet I couldn't look away. "You've got a good eye," said an elderly woman who seemed to appear out of nowhere. Her voice was raspy, her smile strained. "That painting has a story, you know." I asked her what she meant, but she only shook her head and mumbled something about it being a rare find. For $40, it felt like a steal. So I paid, loaded it into my car, and drove home, feeling an odd mixture of excitement and unease. The first night, the painting hung in my living room. It fit perfectly on the blank wall above my couch, adding a touch of mystery to the otherwise mundane space. My friends, who came over for dinner, found it as intriguing as I did. "Creepy but cool," one of them said. "It feels like he's watching you." I laughed it off, but as the night wore on, I couldn't shake the feeling that those eyes were indeed following me. No matter where I moved in the room, they seemed to adjust, tracking my every step. By the next morning, I was convinced I was imagining things. But then the first strange event occurred. I woke up to find the painting on the floor, propped against the wall. Its position was impossible. It hadn't fallen, and no one else had access to my apartment. I hung it back up, dismissing it as an odd accident. But the next day, it happened again. And this time, the painting wasn't on the floor. It was in my bedroom. As the days passed, the occurrences grew more alarming. The painting began to appear in different rooms without explanation. In the kitchen, leaning against the counter. In the bathroom, fogged by the mirror's condensation. Even in my car, resting on the passenger seat. No matter where I took it, no matter how securely I left it behind, the painting always found its way back to me. I started noticing other changes too. The figure in the painting seemed to grow more distinct, his features sharpening as if he were stepping closer. The foggy forest around him thickened, darkened, and those eyes, they grew brighter, more alive. Then came the sounds. At night, I began hearing faint whispers, like someone murmuring just beyond the threshold of my hearing. The sounds seemed to emanate from the painting, and they grew louder with each passing night. One evening, I mustered the courage to confront it. "What do you want?" I shouted, my voice echoing through the empty apartment. The whispers stopped. For a moment, silence hung heavy in the air. Then a single word emerged, clear and chilling. "You." Terrified, I sought answers. I returned to the estate sale, hoping to find the old woman who had sold me the painting. The house was empty, its windows boarded up, and the sign was gone. It was as if the sale had never happened. Frantic, I began researching The Silent Watcher. Hours of scouring forums, archives, and old art catalogs revealed nothing. No records, no artist, no history. It was as if the painting didn't exist. But late one night, On an obscure paranormal message board, I found a thread. A user described an experience eerily similar to mine, a painting that moved on its own, that seemed to follow them wherever they went. Their story ended with a warning: destroy it before it destroys you. Determined to free myself, I decided to destroy the painting. I dragged it to the alley behind my apartment and set it on fire. Flames engulfed the canvas, consuming it in seconds. Relief washed over me as the fire reduced it to ash. But when I returned to my apartment, the painting was there, perfectly intact, hanging on the wall. It wasn't just indestructible. It was angry. The figure's face was now fully visible, his expression twisted into a malicious grin. The whispers returned, louder than ever, accompanied by the sound of footsteps pacing through my apartment. I began to lose track of time. Days blurred into nights as the painting's presence consumed my life. It wasn't just the figure that seemed alive now. The forest in the background began to shift, the trees swaying as if in a phantom wind. Then the figure stepped out. One night, I woke to find the man from the painting standing at the foot of my bed. He was tall, impossibly tall, his face a hollow void save for those piercing eyes. He didn't speak, but his presence radiated malice. When I tried to move, I found myself paralyzed, unable to do anything but stare as he leaned closer, his breath cold against my skin. "You're mine," he whispered, his voice echoing in my mind. Desperate and sleep-deprived, I contacted a paranormal expert, a man named Gabriel who specialized in cursed artifacts. When he saw the painting, his face turned pale. "This isn't just a cursed object," he said. "It's a tether. The entity inside it is using the painting as a gateway." Gabriel prepared a ritual, drawing protective symbols around the painting and chanting in an ancient tongue. As the ritual progressed, the room grew colder, the whispers turning into guttural growls. The figure in the painting began to writhe, his form distorting as if fighting to break free. Suddenly, the lights in the room went out. A deafening roar filled the air, and when the lights flickered back on, Gabriel was gone. The painting remained, but now the forest was empty. That night, I realized the truth. Gabriel hadn't vanished. He had been pulled into the painting, just like I would be if I didn't act fast. I packed my belongings and fled, leaving the painting behind. But no matter how far I drove, it was always there. In motel rooms, on the side of the road, even reflected in my rearview mirror. Eventually, I stopped running. There was no point. The painting was part of me now, its curse bound to my very soul. I've learned to live with the silent watcher, though I wouldn't call it living. The figure no longer appears outside the painting, but his presence is constant. I feel his gaze on me every second of every day, waiting for the moment I slip into despair. So, if you ever come across a painting that seems too captivating, too lifelike, walk away. Because some art isn't meant to be owned. Some art owns you.